So that's it. That is the end of the Black Ops 6 beta for both weekends 1 and 2. And now that I myself have gotten tens, if not probably close to 100 hours having played the game now at this point, which is crazy to say, I did actually thoroughly enjoy my time on the beta so much this time around. I think it's time to just kind of fully digest everything that we saw, address some of the good and bad, potentially, hopefully, some things that can change for launch, specifically in regards to the multiplayer, and just give some of my general thoughts about the game as a whole, I suppose, because we now have just a little over a month until launch, and the wait is going to be pretty much unbearable. I don't anticipate to be playing Modern Warfare 3 as much anymore after playing Black Ops 6, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. And yeah, let's go ahead and jump into it. So just to quickly cover some of the things that I actually mentioned in my last video in regards to Black Ops 6, I was actually surprised to see a lot of the changes that Treyarch was able to make between weekend 1 and 2 for everybody to go ahead and try out for the free version of the beta. And one of the things that I didn't really mention, I don't think, at least in full anyway, was actually the weapon balancing. Besides the Japard PDW, obviously, I anticipated some changes to the shotgun and snipers as well, but nothing really did happen. I can only hope that, some things kind of change before launch, or with the remaining shotguns and snipers that we're going to get at launch, that they can kind of help to balance out the weapon classes a little bit. Because I think we're supposed to be, well, not supposed to be, but it's been, alleged, it's been leaked that we're supposed to be getting a L96 sniper, the Tundra returning from Cold War, which is going to be pretty nice. They did speed up the secondary switch times, which is really nice, and adjusted also the gun shooting audio, which is, a couple of the complaints that I put up from the first weekend, which is also really nice to see. As far as the damage ranges, they didn't buff up any of the weapons besides the MP5. They did severely nerf the Japard PDW, which I really, really appreciate. Even though with that damage range nerf, it is still a very formidable weapon up close. And despite the MP5 statistically having a faster time to kill, in practice, it honestly feels like the Japard has a faster one, just slightly. I don't know if that's just me. But yeah, I was honestly really surprised to see a lot of the updates that came through with the second weekend of the beta. Because, there's only so much that devs can do between, like, a 4-day span, if that. And it was pretty surprising to see. As far as a lot of the other things in regards to like the greater function of the game as a whole, I did have a very bad day on the beta on Saturday, which had a lot of packet bursts as well as the skill matching just tuned up horrendously high. I was not having fun at all. And that was just me coming off of having a 12-hour session Friday, which was a little ridiculous, but I was just thoroughly enjoying myself Friday when the servers came back online. And the spawns, I don't know, man. Like, when the weekend started, they seemed like they got worse, but then on, like, late Saturday and then throughout Sunday and Monday, they kind of felt a little better. I'm not sure if that was just me. Like, it was just super weird, but I don't know. There's just some things, like, kind of on the grander scale of the game that are likely still getting worked out, probably on a day-to-day basis. Treyarch obviously isn't really obligated to tell us what they're doing day-to-day, if anything. And if they are, and if they have made changes based on that, because I have been getting update requires restart, I think each and every day, they're clearly doing something. So very glad to see that changes are being made actively, and I can only hope that some bigger things are in store for us for when the game actually fully launches. Just to reiterate some of the things that I think are actually really good, especially coming from the first weekend of the beta and still being retained, the overall gunplay and feel of Black Ops 6 is really good. I'm really enjoying it, as well as taking full advantage of the Omni movement systems in the game. Although I'm not like actively trying to utilize it like in every single little instance, in the moments where I am using it more passively, it has been really fun, really intuitive, especially when it comes to the 360-degree sliding and diving. It kind of makes up for some really cool moments, and when they're done well, they are done well and very, very fun. In regards to the attachment system and overall gunsmith, I am really a huge fan of the simplicity that Treyarch has brought to the entire thing, where most of the attachments are just pure pros, and it harkens more so back to the classic Call of Duty created class system in that regard, but also providing cons to some attachments where they are more necessary for the sake of balance. Things like the more extreme extended mags, or it's probably the more extreme fast mags, which, if I had to critique one thing about the extreme fast mags, I don't really like the fact that they're cutting down the mag size too much. I would just probably prefer maybe having only one fast mag that keeps the base mag size, but speeds it up somewhat significantly, like probably just as equal as getting an extra 15 rounds in the magazine, and then keeping extended mag different tiers of like 45, 60, and 100 if you so choose. As far as different other features in the game, kind of like the Omni, or not the Omni, the body shield system, I was actually a huge fan of that. I have seen a lot of, not necessarily complaints, but just like critiques on the fact that that's in the game, just because it can be kind of annoying. But I'm all for kind of like goofy, silly fun in Call of Duty games where the game isn't taking itself too seriously. And I admire Treyarch for not only keeping to their guns on wanting to keep the Black Ops 6 world mostly immersive, at least for the first couple of seasons, presumably, of the game, but also putting in some goofy basic features like the body shielding. It's been really fun to kind of engage in that system, both being held and holding somebody. And the entire ability to just talk back and forth with an enemy in that instance is super funny. I really think that is one of the highlights of the game. Speaking of other highlights of the game, the HUD and the customizability of it in terms of the multiplayer, at base, I do think it is pretty good. The way that the map shows up on the minimap in particular, I think could probably be a little bit more readable in terms of maybe outlining a lot of the interiors of some of the buildings. And I mean, that's kind of really my only critique. As far as like the actual look of the UI goes, I think it's honestly pretty cool and really kind of helps out formulate an identity for Black Ops 6 as a game. And I really also enjoy the fact that there are a bunch of customizable presets that we can utilize with a little bit of customization here and there, like utilizing, I think I have magnified for the HUD preset that I was using with specifically a square minimap. I really hope that Treyarch is looking into potentially giving us full control of customizability when it comes to the UI in this game, just because obviously they make the they give you the warning that altering HUD elements that aren't like strictly following a HUD preset type can potentially have things overlap, and I did have that particularly with the vigilance perk. Not that that was a big deal, but being able to like just kind of shift things in a specific way could definitely help. As well as potentially also just full color customizability of the entire thing. Um, I'm not going to get into the zombies. I was about to do that, but the entire zombies thing is something that I will save for an entirely separate video. I'm already thinking about it. But for specifically the multiplayer, everything looks and feels really good. In terms of things related to player customization and player expression, I think it's really cool to also have the best play return, and Treyarch also taking a bit of a middle ground in regards to that feature, where for the modes where it kind of makes more sense to have a final kill cam, they're going to have it present, and for the rest of the modes in the game, they're going to be utilizing best play, which is really nice, because I think in terms of games like Search and Destroy, it probably does make a little bit more sense to have final kill cam, where, you know, the last kill is typically something that most people are trying to get up on a clip for, or what have you. Also, the return of the winner circle is just something that is pretty nice, even if it does kind of add a little bit of extra time to the end of the match. But overall, I am happy with its inclusion, as well as kind of like how I mentioned in my last video, the blueprints in the game currently for the pre-order stuff honestly look really cool. And if that is the precedent that they are setting for the rest of the game after launch, I am pretty excited to see what kind of cool stuff they are cooking up with in terms of hopefully some earnable stuff. I really hope that we can get some things earnable for free that kind of look that good, but I won't be disappointed if it ends up all kind of going to the store, sadly. But just know that at least the blueprints coming from the Vault Edition in the game honestly do look really cool. I'm not sure if I have anything else that I kind of want to tack on to in terms of like a lot of the good. Similar to my last video, if I haven't like explicitly mentioned it, it's because, you know, very likely that I am kind of a fan of it. If it's also not mentioned in kind of the things that I'm wary of, or maybe not a huge fan of in terms of the game at the moment, but you know, that's that. So when it comes to things that were a bit more of an issue with the game, I still stand by the fact that I am not really a fan of how the streak system is currently set up, at least in terms of point values to earn some streaks. You know, going back to an actual streak earning system rather than kind of pity point earning system that Cold War had. Very good step in the right direction, but we also took a step back with a lot of the streaks being severely overpriced, and I just want to kind of reiterate the fact that I think that they are a little bit overpriced in terms of earning score. Maybe things will kind of balance out once we actually get the full streak list when it comes to the launch of the game, but as of right now, I do think that something as simple as a UAV at the very least is a little egregious to have at 675 score rather than something to be at like 500 at the very most. But in terms of other things that I think are a problem, the spawns, I'm not sure if I had mentioned those already, but the spawns, compared to weekend one, at least in my experience, did feel a little bit worse, at least in the first few days of weekend two. Things probably did get smoothed out by Saturday and Sunday of the beta, but I honestly couldn't really tell you. And speaking of spawns and overall maps, I think the maps so far that we got in the beta are pretty okay. My personal favorites were Skyline and Scud, one of them being a community favorite and the other being a community hated map. But I don't know, I just really like Scud. It's genuinely a map that I actually do enjoy, especially getting more and more playtime on it recently. And it does kind of sadden me whenever the lobby is kind of voting against it. So in regards to actual map size, I am honestly a little bit worried if maps in the game end up being more of a rewind size map where I don't know if it's just me, but rewind just feels like a Stonehaven in terms of size. I don't know if that's just me, but rewind for some reason feels like unreasonably huge. I seriously don't. I think that's only my fault, or like that's my only like perception of the map. But I just don't like rewind. Rewind is by far like the worst like actual map, and that's me ignoring Babylon because I just don't like the tiny grindy maps if I'm just trying to play Call of Duty, which really kind of sucks. I don't even need to talk about the spawn situation on Babylon. It was just, oh my god, it was just utterly abysmal. I tried to skip out on playing Babylon as much as I could because it was just that freaking bad. And Treyarch did actually tweet out like their kind of labeling for the full map list coming to launch of which maps are small and which maps are medium sized. And if Scud is considered a medium map as well as Rewind, Rewind and Scud are not around the same size. That I don't like. Scud definitely feels way smaller in terms of overall size compared to Rewind. And I honestly feel like Rewind should be considered a large map, which has me worried if Treyarch is considering Rewind medium size, then how big are some of the other maps in the game going to be? Because as unfortunate it is for me to say, like just in terms of me personally and how I'm going to play the game, I'm already kind of cutting the map size down to 12 rather than 16 because I don't want to play with the face-off maps in particular. If those end up getting dumped into the 6v6 pool like at random, then sure, fine, I'll play those on occasion. But like if they're going to be going into their own separate dedicated playlist, that's already cutting down my map selection down to 12. And I don't know about you, but I kind of want to cut out Babylon and Rewind from that pool as well. So I'm going down to 10 in terms of personal kind of playable maps for me. And that's if I enjoy every single other map that is coming to the game at launch. But that's just kind of one issue that we'll have to deal with when we get there. As far as like some of the things that honestly weren't really that big of an issue to me, I didn't notice them anyway. I heard and saw a lot of false bans going on with Ricochet on the Call of Duty engine this time around, as well as the overall like cheating situation just in general. It seemed like a lot of cheaters were showing up in lobbies, but I definitely didn't notice any. And considering my playtime on the game, that was a little strange. Perhaps they're just like in the tippity top echelon of lobbies because they're just cheating without a care in the world. But that's something that I did not really kind of come into contact with. But I do understand that that is a problem, and a lot of people were dealing with it, along with just the overall connection. I believe I did kind of already talk about it, but just for the sake of mentioning it again, packet burst and just overall server stability, things that kind of can get worked on, when it comes to just over time, and hopefully before launch things get in a better state. I personally did not have that many issues over the course of the beta weekends, but I do know that it is an issue. And speaking of like one of the final issues, obviously, skill-based matchmaking. I mentioned earlier that I had a terrible time with the skill factor in my matchmaking on Saturday, and it was just utterly painful. I do know that not to reiterate a lot of the things that are kind of going on in the community, like people just kind of figuring this out, because I have known for a while, I just don't have anyone to play with. But squatting up with multiple people in your party to play together as friends just all at the same time is kind of a way to not really circumvent the rigidity of the skill matching part of the matchmaking system, but it definitely helps to kind of loosen the feeling of being matched up as if it was a ranked game. And considering that I myself don't have anybody to play Call of Duty with, I'm always getting the short end of the stick being someone that is playing solo, and they don't want solo players to completely dominate lobbies. But, you know, that's just kind of one thing to talk about in terms of skill-based matching. As far as the solo experience, you know, I am kind of anticipating it to be pretty bad, even if, you know, we say multiple times year over year, ever since Modern Warfare in 2019, this is like just strangling. It sucks. We don't like to play this way all the time, and it has bred a mindset of so many people that think that Call of Duty has always been this hyper competitive game, which it has not. It started with Modern Warfare 2019 because they wanted to breed those types of players coming in from Warzone and to protect them. And, you know, there is proof out there of the types of lobbies and the types of players that this skill matching system is trying to protect and effectively gaslight into being as good as they are. But, you know, I'm not going to continue harping on it. It's an issue that has been here for 5 years now, close to it, if not over already. And according to the white paper that Activision have put out, they have no reason to do anything to change it. They say that they're working on changing and adjusting it, but for the sake of, you know, reality, it never will. This is the way it's going to be. Even for the most minute of, I think the biggest delta change in retention that they saw for lowering skill matching was like 2.1% less retention in any skill division anywhere. That is just something that is 2% less money and retention time that is coming in. So they're not gonna leave that on the table anywhere. They're gonna keep the skill-based matchmaking where it is. But yeah, I think in terms of the things that are coming with the actual launch of the game that we do have like full confirmation for, theater mode is returning. I do plan to like at least kind of try to do my part in terms of utilizing it, and, you know, having Treyarch get the numbers to prove that like theater mode is a thing, because I do enjoy theater mode. I do think it is helpful for the game, but obviously when it comes to Activision funding the development of these games, they need a reason to pour money into something like letting the devs develop theater mode. Prestige mode, I am super excited for that. It's going to be fully kind of synced across all of the modes in Call of Duty, be it Warzone, Zombies, multiplayer. That is going to be so much fun, and this probably will be the quickest that I can hit Master Prestige ever. Not that I was really someone that would race to Master Prestige in previous games anyway, but having only done it once with Black Ops 3 Zombies in particular, I am excited to see how quickly I can probably get there this time around. And speaking of a lot of just the completionist type of challenges, I will definitely try to go for Zombies 100%er again. I don't recall if I did it in Cold War. I might have. If not, I've definitely done a large portion of the challenges, as well as most of the Dark Ops challenges, including reaching round 100, which, you know, when it comes to Cold War is not that big of a deal, but still one of a first milestone for me anyway. And yeah, you know, the last thing to tack on, obviously I have mentioned before that I am excited for the campaign. Zombies, I'm anticipating to do good, even if it is taking the basis of the Cold War zombie system. But I was already a fan of Cold War, and hopefully if the biggest problem with the game, that was aura and lack of atmosphere, is getting remedied with Black Ops 6, then I think we are in for a good year as far as Zombies goes. So, you know, that's a lot to kind of talk about and think about. So with that being said, I would like to thank you all so very much for watching and listening. Tried to keep things a little bit shorter this time around because, you know, not much did change between weekend 1 and 2, but we did kind of get some changes and some further updates as to what's going to be going on for launch. And speaking of launch, no campaign or early access. That sucks. But yeah, we'll leave things here for today. And my next video definitely will either be a full kind of breakdown on some of the things that are coming to Zombies this year, or a first-time update with some of the things that are going on in terms of Genshin, Natlin, and both Kachina and Milani on my end. So, yeah, once again, thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you all also enjoyed the Black Ops 6 beta as much as I did, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace out, everybody.